Welcome to the Mile High Podcast. This is your host, Dr. Daniel Knowles, coming to you from, of course, an altitude of 5,280 feet. I actually think it's 5,284 feet or something like that here in Boulder, where we hope you are in September. We hope to see you in September at Mile High Altitude. RiseUpToMileHigh.com is where you can get all the details. And this episode, I'm grateful to be interviewing and inviting you to conversation here between me and Dr. Kelly Holt, who's actually not at Mile High Altitude, but at down under altitude, but that might be different in terms of geographical altitude because there are some mountains in New Zealand. He is a member, amazingly, at the 1998 inaugural graduating class of New Zealand College of Chiropractic, and he also has a Bachelor of Science majoring in physiology and a PhD in health science, and has published 44 research articles in peer-reviewed journals. And he is now the president, not for how long he's been president, but newly president of New Zealand Chiropractic College, which I think so highly of. So thank you, Dr. Kelly Holt, for prioritizing your time to be with us on the Mile High Podcast.
It's great to be here with you today, Danny. I'm looking forward to the conversation we're going to have.
I think we're going to have fun conversing too, because we have a lot in common. Like, you graduated in 1998, and I'm a similar age. I graduated age in terms of vintage of chiropractic graduation. I graduated in 96, so we've been around this profession for a while and seen a lot that's happened in the last 30-ish years together. And New Zealand is celebrating its 30 years of it's 30 years since opening. Is that what it is?
That's it. We started in 1994. So
wow. It's very, very exciting. It's done so much good. So first of all, I'm really very curious. How did you find your way and have the privilege to decide to become a chiropractor at the time that you could start at New Zealand College of Chiropractic when it was opening? How did you find your way into that world?
Well, I owe a lot to my chiropractor. You know, when we look at students who are coming to our college, we love it when students are referred by chiropractors. It's just like a practice. You know, when someone's been going to see a chiropractor and they get it as, you know, could be a practice member at a chiropractor's, and they want what they have. So when chiropractors refer students to us, we love it. And that's how I got into it. I first started seeing a chiropractor when I was maybe 9 or 10 years old. I had headaches all the time. My mum was going to see a chiropractor. The GP at the time, he said just take drugs because those help get rid of headaches. Didn't make an awful lot of sense to just take drugs because there must be some reason I was getting these headaches. So my mum took me along to see a chiropractor. His name was Lionel Blackburn, an excellent chiropractor here, graduated from Palmer in the early 60s, and checked and adjusted me, and my life got better. You know, at 10 years old, I wasn't having those headaches every day. And so I continued going to see the chiropractor. And when I was leaving high school, I'd left high school, I went and got a terrible job for a year, because I knew I wanted to do something with university, but didn't know what that was going to be. So I thought, I'll go and earn some money and I'll get a terrible job working at a supermarket, starting at 6 in the morning, finishing at 9 at night. So at least I get some money coming in, but it will show me exactly what I don't want to do and make sure that I don't end up there for too long. So I had this gap year and I was working, and went in one day to see my current chiropractor, Doug Blackburn, who was Lionel's son. And he said to me, what are you going to do? He knew that I was having this gap year. I said, I don't know. I know I want to do something. I don't know what it's going to be. He said, I think you'll make a great chiropractor. We're opening a chiropractic college here in New Zealand next year. I think you should apply. Applications closed tomorrow. So I went home, and back in those days, I pulled out the Encyclopedia Britannica and started reading up a little bit more about chiropractic, because I figured there must be more to it than just a solution for people with headaches. And sure enough, there was a whole lot more information in there about chiropractic. And interestingly, it was the type of practice that of chiropractic that we loved. That was what was described. And
Wow.
I jumped on board with that, put in my application, and next minute I was in the inaugural class at the college here. There was, I think, maybe 23 students. We had 3 part-time lecturers, and the rest is history, as they say.
Wow. You know, we might have to tell people, advise them in the liner notes to go look up Encyclopedia Britannica, because I don't know if anybody knows what that is anymore. So we might have to put that in the notes.
Yeah, I think this was a version from like the 70s or something. It was pretty old school, but yeah, it was probably a different version than you'd get on Wikipedia these days.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
So I mean, you know, I would imagine it was pretty interesting to enroll at a new school. While we're in that territory, can you share anything about what it was like in those? I would imagine there was some enthusiasm and energy about that. Can you share anything about the experience of being in this new institution?
Yeah, it's funny. I actually caught up with the inaugural president of the college just last week, and we were talking about these early days when the college was set up, and bouncing some stories around. And it was an amazing family atmosphere. You know, you had the small number of people who had come together, and very quickly we became a family, and we were very much aligned with what we were, you know, trying to achieve. We were on board with the type of chiropractic that the college stood for, and we had this vision that we bought into as students. And just thinking about some of the challenging things, I remember one of the very first lectures I went to was with Phil McMaster. He taught philosophy at the college at the time, and he said to us, you know, I really respect the way that you guys have come here, come to a college with no accreditation, but you're putting your faith in us that we are going to provide you with this education, and you're going to be able to practice chiropractic when you finish. And I think we all sort of looked at each other and went, what? There's no, we hadn't quite, you know, gone down the track of looking beyond what was going to happen when we finished up the education. We just assumed that it was all going to be hunky-dory, as they say. And like most colleges, accreditation was a challenge along the way. And there's all sorts of stories there of overcoming those accreditation challenges. But I'll always remember that class with Phil.
You know, I have to say, now I'm looking back and my mind's running through the dates and years and so on. And about that time, because I graduated in 96, and 97, I did go and visit New Zealand to be involved with some network event. I don't know what it was, with Donnie Epps, you know, my stepdad. And I did meet with people at the school at that time. It wasn't on, you know, where the school is now, right, at all in terms of the building, and obviously, but I do have a vague memory of doing that. It would have been 97. And, you know, other times I visited the institution. I went back with my daughter a few years ago. And I was so impressed with the school. I've never wanted to live anywhere else than Boulder. I visited a number of places in my life, a decent number of places. New Zealand is like the only place where I've gone to said, you know what, I could live here if I was going to live anywhere else other than Colorado and Boulder, because I love here. And my daughter, who does not have any interest in going to chiropractic school, as much as I push her, said, you know, if I were to go to chiropractic school, I would go here, is what she said, because she was so impressed with the school. So that's to get a vote positive for my daughter. That's a really big plug. So just so you know. And last time, again, I was so impressed with the institution and what it stands for. And I like people to know a little bit more about it, because I do think it's very special. Can you share a little about the where New Zealand Chiropractic College, its values around philosophy, science, and art? Can you share a little bit about that with the audience? I know it's a big, very broad question.
Yeah, again, if I go back to the conversation I had last week with Jim Stanier, our founding president, we were talking about why the college was founded. And if you look at New Zealand, it's got a fairly rich history of chiropractic, but traditionally, if you wanted to study chiropractic, you had to travel overseas. So you went to the States. A lot of the early chiropractors had gone through Parma. And then as we got into the 80s, you had more chiropractors coming back from the Australian colleges. And the flavour started to change somewhat. So, chiropractic in New Zealand, with the chiropractors, we're looking at the 80s here, 60s, 70s, 80s, coming out of the colleges like Parma, had a very philosophical focus to how chiropractic was practiced. And that started to get diluted a little bit as chiropractors were coming from Australia, where the colleges didn't have the same philosophical underpinning that was prevalent in New Zealand at the time. So a group of chiropractors got together and decided they wanted to set up a college here that was true to the philosophy of chiropractic, that had the focus on locating, analysing, correcting subluxations, underpinned by the philosophy. So they were actually called the Sherman Mafia because a number of our founders had either come through Sherman or
I love it. The Sherman Mafia.
The Sherman Mafia came along and sort of took over our chiropractic association, and a number of those were key to setting up our college. So we were set up based on the philosophy that was going to underpin everything that we do. We were set up based on teaching the art of chiropractic. You look now, many of the colleges, the art of locating, analysing, and correcting subluxations isn't what it once was. It's been diluted. There's a focus on, it might be telehealth, it could be massage, exercise. We wanted a college that really did focus on the art, and that's always been core to what we do. And of course, the science. So even from day one, we wanted a strong scientific component to the college. So one of those first 3 lecturers that we had on board was our research director, Bernadette Murphy, who is still doing lots of great work in chiropractic. So we really were founded based on philosophy, science, and art, and we've stayed true to that the whole time that we've been in existence. All of those fundamentals are still very, very important to us, and we've been working on how can we develop those over the last 30 years and ensure that our curriculum is strong in all 3 of those areas.
Well, I have to say this, and again, when I last visited, and chiropractors practice differently. You and I know that they have different approaches and analysis protocols. And we would like them to be aligned with the philosophy as their foundation, and yet they may adjust people differently or have different tools that they use. I do network, and I am very into instrumentation testing. People use different instruments and are favorable to one or another. And I use the Insight and the EMG and thermography and HRV. And when I was there, I found myself in your student clinic, walking around, and realized I was standing in the middle of this student open adjusting room, which obviously I do, and it was utilizing the instrumentation, the CLA instrumentation. I know there's other things that you do other than that there, however, in terms of tools and resources. But I was there and I looked around, so I'm in this open adjusting room where students are learning to provide care for patients, and there's this instrumentation in use, and I just swelled up with tears. Literally, I my eyes watered up and started to tear because it was just beautiful to see this is what's happening in a chiropractic institution. And it's just, Rochelle and I were just so grateful to see that. And I want to thank you for what it is, what you're standing for. And I think it's beautiful to see that there's so few institutions. I don't think there's actually any that have an open adjusting area that I know of other than that. I may be wrong about that, but it was, plus the instrumentation. So I want to thank you for the positions you hold on those things.
Yeah, we're really proud of our chiropractic centre, and we're so lucky that we've had so much support from people like David and Nancy Fletcher, so we can have the CLA technology in the chiropractic centre to help our students be better chiropractors. And the open plan, and when we first started with the chiropractic centre, it was closed rooms. We had doors on the rooms. Gradually, we started taking the doors off, and then as we developed over the years, we wanted to have more of that open plan environment. As you know, in practice, it can just work. So our chiropractic centre, it hums. So when we're busy there, it's on campus, we'll have 1,000 people, 1,200 people a week coming through the chiropractic centre, and the place is just humming. It's high energy. I get checked there by one of our interns, and it's a great environment. We're constantly looking to how we can do things better. So yeah, we're very proud of the technique program, the chiropractic centre, and what we're doing, particularly when it comes to that art of chiropractic.
And, highlighting this so more people who hear this podcast will know the importance of sending people, hopefully our audience knows the importance of sending people to schools that are aligned philosophically, but also that, clearly sending them overseas to New Zealand is a very good option. If they're listening to this in the US, we have a lot of listeners in Europe and Australasia and other continents as well. But, what more can you highlight about the education at New Zealand?
We do have a lot of international students coming to train with us. We love it. We've got about 1/3 internationals and 2/3 domestic. That's the sort of ratio that we go with. And we love having those internationals who are going to travel often halfway around the world to come and train with us, because they're so highly motivated, they can really lift that bar. And it just works so well. If you look at the program that we've got here, we've basically got 2 programs, I suppose, that we can look at. We've just started a full 5-year program. So what that means is a high school leaver can come and start training with us from day one without having to do an undergraduate program before entering our program. So we can teach the entire program from day one. It's 5 years long, and graduate and can practice chiropractic. The traditional program is 4 years. And with our 4-year program, you have to do some prerequisite work beforehand. We have a lot of people who do a kinesiology degree, another undergraduate degree, or at the minimum, you're doing 1 year of training elsewhere in the health sciences before joining the 4-year program. So we've just had that accreditation come across the line, so we could start the full 5-year program this year. There's still the options of doing that first year elsewhere, but we love having the students come in and doing that first year with us, because they're getting chiropractic from day one. So a lot of the early classes you do in chiropractic might be focusing on basic sciences. Our aim is to try and teach those through a chiropractic lens. If you're going to a university elsewhere, there's not much of a chiropractic lens in microbiology. So we can get them working hands-on from day one, get them understanding the philosophy from day one, and start teaching from day one through that chiropractic lens. So we're really happy with that.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Now, also, I think also, we all know that research is very important in the chiropractic profession as a whole. It's important in all health professions. And it's something that you've been highly involved with, and the school has been highly involved with. Can you speak at all to the importance of research at New Zealand Chiropractic College?
Yeah, from day one, it's been important. And that importance has only grown. Heidi Horvick is our VP of Research, and I've worked really closely with Heidi for how long now? Maybe 18 years, something like that. And I think research has only gotten more important. Sometimes when we're chatting away, we say, if we don't do this research, if we pull back from it, and we're not doing the research that supports subluxation focused chiropractic care, will the profession even be around in 50 years' time? Or will it have been diluted so much? Will it have been taken over by more of a physiotherapy focus if we're not putting the research out there to support what we're doing with subluxation focused care, brain-body communication? So there's that driver there for us where we think if we don't do this, is the profession going to survive and thrive? So we've put a lot of blood, sweat, tears, time, energy, and resource into our research program. And it's grown dramatically over the last few years. We've been very lucky. For a number of years, it was me and Heidi. And then we had a new chap come on board in, I think it was 2013, Imran Khan Niazi. And Imran's not a chiropractor, he's a bioengineer, but just an incredible human being, incredible scientist. And together we set about growing our research team and put a lot of initiatives in place with a real long-term strategy of moving from 2, 3, 4 people into a big impactful team with a variety of specialty knowledge of knowledge, so we could do the research that we really want to do to tell the chiropractic story. So if you look at our research team now, it goes up and down a little bit week by week, but we've currently got about 35 people in our research team. And I think that's about 22 on site, either with PhDs or training to get their PhDs, and then another 13, 14 internationally who are either working for us in other institutions, or there's some people are doing some volunteer work there. But we've got this big research team with a number of different skill sets who can work together to really explore chiropractic and the impact that chiropractic care has on humanity.
Wow, I have to say that's super exciting to me. I think science and research is vital, especially when it's alignment with our true values and principles. So that's it's super thrilling, and to have that large a research focus is vital for any institution, and especially in chiropractic. So I think there's a word of thanks that needs to be said to you and your school and your team for prioritizing that, because you know, some schools may not do that, you know, as a priority. You know, we know there's lots of chiropractic schools that may not be the case for. So I think that's admirable of the institution. It also speaks to your institution, New Zealand Chiropractic College, having a global vision for what they do, not only educating, but really having a global vision that, hey, this is a profession we're serving, not just putting butts in seats, so to speak, right? And making sure that we can graduate them. So, and there's another thing that I think is important for people to know, that there's a new chiropractic college in Australia, and your school, and correct me please if I'm wrong or misspeak, had given its curriculum to help them get started. Is that, am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, the Australian College of Chiropractic, based in Adelaide, when they set up, we gifted them our curriculum. You know, we're proud of the curriculum that we've got. It works. We've got it accredited in Australasia. So we thought that would be a great kickstart to them to have our curriculum. They could then develop that so it's fit for purpose for Australia. There's obviously, you know, some things that would need to change, some of the cultural context, but it would give them that great kickstart so they could start teaching with a curriculum where we knew they could get it accredited. So we've supported the Australian colleges as much as we can along the way, and it's great to see them starting to thrive as well.
Yeah, and even I believe they're starting to start a class in Melbourne, if I remember right, also.
Yeah. Next year they're going to be teaching their diploma program in Melbourne, which is, you know, a great step for them.
I mean, that's exciting, and it also speaks to. I mean, I've been involved as a board of trustee member of Sherman. I wasn't part of the Sherman Mafia, but I got to be involved with Sherman on a leadership level, and that's an extremely generous gift for the college to give. And again, in addition to the research, it speaks to your values and principles and wanting to have a global impact beyond the individual student. I mean, obviously every student has a global impact, but you understand what I'm saying. So, and I think people need to be aware and again, give kudos to the institution for making that choice and for the leadership to make that choice. It's impressive. Now you mentioned something about physiotherapy, and this is, I think, important for people to understand. The profession, a lot of the profession has further moved towards physiotherapy, right? And you saying the importance of research show that we don't further in that direction. We are separate and distinct, and people know that it's a different art. That chiropractic is a different art than PT. So can you say something relative to how our philosophy differentiates us as chiropractors who adjust people as compared to physiotherapists that are really doing a different profession?
Yeah, I can share a story which again came from this conversation last week. So when we're talking with Jim Stenier, first president of the college, we're talking about what drives us. And our vision is a world of people expressing optimal potential. And that speaks to what you were talking about earlier, where we'd support a program in Australia. And those words really underpin so many of the decisions we make and what we do. But for me, the real driver is when you take those words and you get a bit more personal with them. So we were sharing some stories about people that we'd seen in practice and how we need our type of chiropractic to exist and prevail because it makes such a difference to people's lives. And one of the people that I was talking about was a lady who came into my office. This is probably 20 odd years ago. And she came in, she had migraines all the time. Twice a week she was having migraines, taking time off work. She'd been to lots of other therapists already. She'd gone down the drug track. She'd been to a physiotherapist who'd done work on her neck, and came in to see me. I checked her, and her cervical spine was absolutely terrible. And often we jump to that conclusion of cervical spine, headaches, migraines, check and adjust her, and that will make a difference to her cervical spine. And the physio had already gone down that track because she did have cervical issues, and they were doing whatever physiotherapeutics they do to try and fix that. When I checked her, usually I'd start with upper cervicals. That's just the way I practiced. When I checked her, for whatever reason, the first adjustment I did with her was L4. So side posture, L4, moved to the cervicals thinking I'm going to toggle her next. And her cervicals had completely changed. Checking her cervicals, I couldn't find any problem there anymore. What was there before wasn't there anymore. The adjustment at L4, for whatever reason, had changed the way her spine was functioning. So she came in again a couple of days later. Again, I checked her. Cervicals were different than they were previously. L4 needed adjusting again, so adjusted there. And it was probably 2 or 3 weeks into her care before I finally adjusted her cervical spine. But over the course of 4 weeks, 8 weeks perhaps, all of her migraines went away, and they were going away well before I'd done anything to her cervicals. And that was great. She loved that. But the real difference, or the real thing that got me about this person was about a month later, the door to my office swung open and this big burly man came in, pointed his finger at me, and he said, "You got my wife pregnant." And I'm like, I got no idea who you are, and I definitely know that I haven't gotten anyone's wife pregnant. But he came up and he put his arms around me and he said, "I've been trying for something like 4 years. She's been coming to see you for 3 months and now she's pregnant." And to me, that brings it home, because a physiotherapeutic approach, or even an approach taken by many chiropractors, is you're looking for the painful bits and you're treating those. And if the only painful bits are upper cervical, you don't look elsewhere. And I feel that let's just assume that what I did with this lady had the impact on her migraines from adjusting her low back, and let's assume that what I did had an impact on her fertility in whatever way. If I didn't have that approach of looking full spine, checking and adjusting full spine to improve brain-body communication, I don't think that would have happened, and perhaps her life wouldn't have changed in the way that it did. So, to me, that sort of underpins that difference between a physiotherapeutic approach and what I think is a chiropractic approach.
And that's so important. And by the way, I've had people accuse me of getting their wife pregnant as well in practice. And for a similar story as you just had. And it's very important for people to realize there's a difference between chiropractic, and we are not glorified physiotherapists. It's a different art. It's a different point of view of looking at people clinically. It's a different point of view, philosophically. Most certainly, the art looks different. Even if you're doing upper cervical or Gonstead, the art is different than a physiotherapist for many reasons. So it's vital for the Mile High audience to have that. And I've had people message us that if they hadn't listened to this podcast because of whatever school they went to, they would have been a glorified physiotherapist as compared to getting some introduction to go down a different road. So I'm glad that people that go to New Zealand are going to get put down a different road than if they had gone to a school that really was teaching chiropractic to be a type of physiotherapy, which is it's vital. If not, we're not going to have we're going to lose chiropractic as its own profession. So what else would you like people to know about New Zealand Chiropractic College and going to study chiropractic in New Zealand?
Well, like I say, we love embracing our international students. You talked about coming to New Zealand. One of the things that our students love is actually the country. It's more than just the college. I was just outside earlier as I walked in today. I bumped into one of our students. Again, another cool story. And I hope he doesn't mind me mentioning his name, Ben Blackman. He came to us from Canada, but he was thinking about coming to Chiropractic College just before our Lyceum event last year. And he was on the phone on the Monday to one of our recruitment and admissions team. And by that Thursday, he was on the plane and had come to Lyceum to experience a little bit about the college and the feel and what we stood for. And by the end of Lyceum, he'd made that decision that he wanted to come here and study with us this year. And what we see, particularly with our international students, is I passed him on the way in. He'd said he'd just finished his exams. We've just finished first semester exams, and asked him what he's up to for the break. And he was looking forward to going exploring around New Zealand with one of his classmates. So they're off to Coromandel Peninsula, which is where I was over the weekend. There's hot springs there. They're going touring around, exploring the Coromandel Peninsula and having some of that adventure. So a lot of the students who come here, it's not just the education that they're going to get, which we know is absolutely world class. We absolutely pride ourselves on that. It's coming to the country, being part of the family here, and being able to explore another part of the world. So that's just one of those things there. I mentioned family. That's always been paramount to us, is maintaining that family environment. We've had it since day one. We want our students to feel like they're more than just a number. So that is very important to us.
Well, excellent. I certainly hope from watching this or listening to this, however people are consuming it, and most certainly hit subscribe, whether you're listening to it on Spotify or iTunes or YouTube or whatever it is. Make sure you hit subscribe so you never miss any Mile High Tick. And I certainly hope that from listening or watching this, people consider strongly sending people to New Zealand Chiropractic College, or maybe going there themselves if somehow they find that along that part of their education journey, they find this, because it's a phenomenal institution. It's one of, everybody's going to say their institution's one of a kind, and New Zealand Chiropractic College is certainly one of a kind, and it's one of only a few that really uplift our philosophy, science, and art in the appropriate light. So super grateful for the job they're doing there, and I thank you. Sometimes all these different types of leadership positions can be not expressed as much gratitude as they need to. So I want to thank you for taking up the reins at New Zealand Chiropractic College.
Thank you so much, Danny, and thanks for the support that you've given us, and the shout out that you've given us on this podcast.
Well, we want to give credit where credit's due for uplifting our values. So again, thank you so much. And again, people look up New Zealand Chiropractic College, and most certainly, even if you're beyond your years of going to chiropractic college and you're in New Zealand, go visit them, and go. It'll warm your heart for chiropractic, and to see a promise for the future, and most certainly send students to New Zealand Chiropractic College. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Most certainly hit subscribe so you never miss any Mile High Chiropractic Tick, and goes up to riseuptomilehigh.com so you can reserve seats at to see us in September. Mile High 12. It's kind of unbelievable that I thought we'd be putting on this one thing and it became to 12 12 things. So see us at Mile High noon in September. Riseuptomilehigh.com, and enjoy this episode and watch for the next one. Thank you again for Dr. Kelly Holt for joining us.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.